Hello everyone, I am Mr. Sandip Kurkute, an assistant professor, Department of English. Today, in this PPT, I am going to explain you two types of sentences in English. That is active voice and passive voice that you can see here. We are going to see how a sentence of active voice is transformed into passive voice, and for that we need to take some of the rules into consideration. But before explaining that, let me tell you what is active voice and what is passive voice and when they are used in English. In active voice sentences, the doer of the actions are very important, and in passive sentences, the emphasis is put upon the action taken place in the sentence. Now let me give you one example. Suppose you are in the classroom, you are sitting in the classroom, and all of a sudden you found that you do not have your own watch. It was, in the bag, but when you try to find it in the bag, you found it now here. You search the entire bag. At that time, you need to communicate the same to your friend in order to find out the watch. And you are absolutely unaware about the thief or about the person who stole the watch. At that time, what kind of statement you have to make? What kind of statement you have to actually make here? You will say that my watch has been stolen. That means indirectly you have made use of passive voice there, because you have to put more emphasis upon the action taken place and not on the doer of the action. Hence, as I earlier told you, that in active voice, the doer of the action is very important. Whatever action he performs or does in the sentence, he is given importance. But in passive sentences, the agent is not important. On the other hand, we find that emphasis is put upon the action taken place in the sentence. Now I hope you might have understood what I mean by active voice and passive voice. Now see, there are questions in the examination and you are asked to convert the sentence of active voice into passive voice. And at that time, you need to know the rules. What kind of rules you need to know? While converting a sentence of active voice into passive voice or vice versa, you need to take into consideration 5 steps, or we can call it 5 rules. Now what are those rules? I have not made a special PPT on it. I will just explain it here. There are 5 rules that you have to remember. First, second, third, 4 and 5. My handwriting is not getting clear here, but you understand. The first rule, here what you have to do, as soon as you encounter the sentence, whether it may be of active voice or passive voice, let's simply consider here the sentence of active voice. At first, what you have to do, identify the type of sentence. It is very important. Here you can see present indefinite sentence. You can also call it present simple present tense. Now see, This is the example of simple present tense. We find here subject, a verb, first form of verb, taking es form, and then object. That means this sentence belongs to simple present tense. Anyway, now turning to our rules. At first, you have to identify the type of sentence with whether it belongs to simple present tense, simple past tense, uh, um, present perfect tense, present past tense, whatever it may be. After identifying the type of sentence, our second rule is about directly now, without wasting much time, I want to come to the direct point. Here, interchange of words. Now see, interchange of words, what I mean. Here, subject becomes object and object becomes subject. Now you understand interchange of words, what I mean. Subject becomes object and object becomes subject. Now see, for example, here she is subject and my car is object. Before interchanging, you have to, in rule number second, you have to divide the sentence into few parts, 3 or 4 parts. 3 parts are very important for us. You have to divide your sentence into 3 or 4 segments. Let's see here. She drives my car. Now we have divided this particular sentence into 3 parts. Now let's name. She is subject, drive is our verb, and my car is object. Right? Now here we have to interchange the words. Interchange of words means, understand, subject becomes object and this object becomes subject while transforming the sentence of active voice into passive voice. Then rule number third, this is very important. Use the appropriate form of to be. This is very important here. Use the appropriate form of to be. Now what are the forms of to be? You people are quite familiar with all those forms because you have been learning this kind of grammar right from 5th standard, if I am not wrong. The forms of to be in simple, the forms of to be in present tense is am, is, are. In past tense they are was, were, and in future tense shall be, will be. So these are the forms of to be that we have to use just after we make an interchange of words. Then here, after interchanging words, you have to use here third form of verb. Whatever verb is there, you have to use its third form. Now see here, you will see drives, and what it becomes, drives, drove, driven. So we have to use its third form to convert it into passive sentence. Now the fifth rule is use by to show agent. Use by to show agent. It is very important. Now the rules are over here. Now see how it functions. Now we have seen all the rules. Here at first you have to identify the type of sentence. You identified it. Then divide the sentence into 3 parts. You divided it. Then interchange the words, that means subject becomes object and object becomes subject. Then our next rule is use the appropriate form of to be. You have to use the appropriate forms of to be according to the subject. Then use the third form of verb. Then use by to show agent, and the first rule is applicable after the fifth one. After using by, you have to bring the subject at the place of object and object at the place of subject. You have to carry them from one place to another. This is very simple. If you do practice on it, it will be very easy for you. Now I hope that you understood all these rules very well. Now just a minute. Now coming to this sentence. Now what is our rule? See, as soon as we see the sentence, we have to identify she drives my car. Simple present tense. This sentence belongs to simple present tense. Now divide this sentence into three parts: first, second, and third. This one is subject, she is subject, drive is verb, and my car is object. Now according to our rule, subject becomes object and object becomes subject. Now see, then we have used here my car. Object has become subject here, my car. Then what is our next rule? Use the appropriate form of to be. Now the sentence belongs to simple present tense, right? Therefore we have to use am, is, or are. Since this my car is singular, we have to use is here, and we have used is here, right? You can clearly see here we have used is. Then use the third form of verb, drives, drove, driven. We use driven. And then our next rule says use by to show agent. Then we have used by here. And then she is coming at the place of object, and therefore we used this pronoun she in objective case. What is the objective case of she? She becomes her here. And now your passive sentence is ready here. Is there any problem? Of course, you may not have any problem here. I have also given here the formula. You can make use of these formulas in order to convert such kind of sentences into active into passive and passive into active, vice versa. In active sentence you find subject, then verb. As far as simple present tense is concerned, here I have given the formula: subject, verb, first form. It is in first form. If the subject is singular, then you have to add yes or es in such kinds of sentences in the end of the verb, depending on the last letter of the verb, and then object. But in passive structure we see object plus the forms of to be, either is, are, or am, plus third form of verb, plus by, plus subject. Your sentence will be ready. Now moving toward the next slide. Now see here present continuous tense. Now remember the rules. Here I have given one example: I am writing a letter. Basically present continuous sentence in English is used to show or to talk about the action which is going on at the time of speaking. Anyway, this is not important for us here. What is important? How to convert the sentence of active voice into passive one. Now the structure, look at this structure: subject plus am, is, are, plus verb, first form. You have to take the first form of verb and add ing plus object. The sentence is quite clear. Now the first step is identify the type of sentence. As I have already made it clear that present continuous tense, but you may not have such kind of title there in the examination. You will have to yourself identify the type of sentence according to the structure and formula used in the sentence. Now see, I am writing a letter. This is quite clear that this sentence belongs to present continuous tense. Now our second rule says divide the sentence into few parts. I is our subject, am writing is verb, and a letter is object. See, subject is I, am is are, verb first form ing. This entire part is am writing is verbal part, and a letter is object. Now our next rule says subject becomes object. See, subject becomes object and this object becomes subject, right? Now a letter, we have taken a letter, we have taken an object at the place of subject here, a letter. Then a letter here is am, right? Can we use am here? Of course not, because a letter is singular, and after a singular verb we have to use is. We used here is, right? A letter is. Now what is the function of being here? As I said that we have to use the forms of to be at any cost. We have to use, this is an additional segment that we have to add in passive sentences. Am is already there, so we use is. We have to add the forms of to be. And in such types of sentences, whether it may be present continuous tense, past continuous tense, in such types of sentences you have to use the form of be as it is by adding I N G. See, be, being, because in present continuous tense the subject is always taking ing form, because we are going to remove its ing form and we have to convert the main verb into its third form. So we have to use being in continuous sentences, right? Now a letter is being, we use being here. Then our rule says take the third form of verb. What is the third form of verb? Write is the first form, wrote is the second one, and the third one is written. Then we use written. Then our next rule says use by, right? Here we used by, and then subject becomes object. Now while taking this subject I in the place of object, we should change its case. Case means, I hope you know cases in English. Nominative case, objective case, possessive case, etc. These are the cases. Now here we have to put in objective case. So I became me here. Now your sentence is ready. The same methods can be adopted at the time of converting the sentence of passive voice into active one. You have to go in reverse. Automatically the sentence will be very quite clear. Now here you can see the structure or formula. You can say of passive voice: object plus amizar plus being plus verb third form, as we have used the third form of verb, and then by plus subject. Is it clear to everyone? Of course. Just a minute.